Greetings, Mavericks and new viewers. Tonight, direct and live from the Maverick News Network World Studios. This is Maverick News with Rick Walker.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Rick Walker. Welcome back to the Maverick News Channel. Once again, stacked program for you. Another little Gaza set up on a university campus, this time at York University. The Liberals still on the hot seat over revelations that we have members of parliament who have been involved, cooperating wittingly with foreign governments involved in foreign interference in our political system. Boeing has finally launched Starliner. Elon Musk has weighed in on an issue that is a real hot button, that being hiring practices at the University of British Columbia. We'll tell you what that's about. China, in the wake of these revelations about foreign interference, apparently is trying to recruit, hire military experts, specifically military trainers from Canada, offering big bucks in the process. And the government, our military, is worried. Interest rates, they were cut in Canada. That surprised me. I think it surprised a few people given the level of inflation, but I'll tell you why I think that. I'll tell you what I think it means. And then you can reflect on that and form your own opinion. So we have all that and a lot more. We're going to talk, I'm sure, about Israel, Gaza at some point. We're going to probably touch a bit on what's going on in Ukraine, D-Day celebrations. We'll talk about, probably that economic summit over in St. Petersburg as well, the BRICS nations. That's, to say the least, very significant and a direct, a new direct competitor to the US dollar and Western economies. So stay with me. We're going to dig into all of that when we come back right after this.
Maverick News. The world is watching. Greetings, brave Mavericks. Our quest for truth continues. We go beyond fake news. Together we expose propaganda. Together we pull others out of rabbit holes. We are Maverick thinkers. We are all unique individuals, defenders of individual rights and freedoms, credible, trusted, grounded in reality. Maverick News. Defending free speech. Free speech. Donate. At freedomreporters.com. Do it now. Tomorrow. Maybe too late. Maverick News. The world is watching.
Our list story tonight, which was not mentioned in this headline, just because we've got such a stacked program, and it's easy for me to sort of have this just slip off the table momentarily. But this is, I'm sure, going to be of extreme concern to people because the World Health Organization has confirmed the first death from bird flu, the first human death in Mexico. So we're just getting this information in here tonight. It is the lead story on some of the channels here with the headlines that we create and the thumbnail. So the World Health Organization says that a 59-year-old resident of Mexico passed away on April 24th. Just hearing about it now. He developed a fever, shortness of breath, diarrhea, nausea, and general discomfort. And this is the first laboratory-confirmed human case of infection with H5N2 subtype of bird flu reported globally, and the first H5 virus infection in a person so far reported in Mexico. So I'm sure this will set off alarm bells. The victim, apparently, no history of exposure to poultry or other animals, according to the World Health Organization. Although they have had bird flu of that subtype reported in poultry in Mexico, that the person who passed away from the virus apparently had no prior exposure to poultry. The person had a variety of different underlying medical conditions, so was not in the best of health and had been bedridden for 3 weeks for other reasons, also according to the World Health Organization, and then suffered the bird flu infection. Things became more complicated in terms of health care, and he passed away. So was the cause of death the bird flu, or was it the other extenuating medical circumstances? I would say that's an important question that we do not have the answer to tonight, but now they're confirming that is the first case. And now, of course, people will be very, very worried, wondering if this will trigger a replay of what we saw during the pandemic. Well, that's just one case. Let's stay calm, I guess. Oh, but not everybody wants you to stay calm. Some people are freaking out, and they want you to freak out too. This is a post on DC Drano. Now, is that an Owen Schroyer Twitter account? I don't know. Is that who it is? Who is DC Drano? I think that is Owen Schroyer. I think. I'm just going to check. Anyway, you can see that maybe not. That's Rogan O'Handley. I see. Okay. Different guy. I've just, from the beard and the little tiny image there, I thought that might be Owen Schroyer, but it's, I don't think it is. I don't know. If anybody knows, put it in the chat. And, yeah, I don't think that's him. I think it's this lawyer over at DC Drano. Anyway, it looks like bird flu learned how to kill humans just in time for election season. Maybe. I'll wait and see. I don't know. I've had people phoning me, messaging me over the past couple of weeks, asking me, like, freaking right out, because they're hearing things on some other channels that, you know, the spread of bird flu and is imminent, and it's the next pandemic, and they're going to lock us down because of the election. And what do I think? Well, I haven't seen any real evidence of that yet, other than some live streamers talking about it. But you think back to the way things happened with the pandemic. That's not the way the pandemic started with the lockdowns. That's not the way the lockdowns went down. It was the mainstream media that was all over it, right? So I would say let's just hang tight, see what happens. My guess is over the next few days, you won't see much more about it. Do I think we're going to get lockdowns? I don't know. I could sit here and scare you, but I'm not going to do it. I'm just going to wait for facts and stay calm and stay on target. Okay, let's move on, shall we? York University. Another encampment. Of course. I'm surprised they didn't have one already. Let's bring up what's going on social media with it, just to give you a bead on the status of things with this new encampment at York. Welcome to Canada. Divest from occupation. Invest in liberation. So this went up this morning. Let me see here. Well, and you can see the tents there. All the same color. A bunch of them. Very organized. Gee, I guess all the people at that encampment just happened to shop at exactly the same place. And they all got exactly the same size tent. And they all got the cover for the dew, to keep the dew off their nylon tents. Color coordinated. Very unorganic looking, but I'm sure it's just youngsters just hanging out, having a good old fashioned protest. Nothing to work, nothing coordinated there. No funding. No. That's totally just, they just put up this notice right here. They just put this notice up. Just pass that around. Just like the Little Rascals. Oh, I'm so old. The Little Rascals. When they had their, they'd put on like a circus or something, right? And they'd pass out flyers. If you don't know who the Little Rascals are, just Google it. I'm not going to explain it to you. I'm so old. Breaking. Students establish an encampment at York University. The Little Rascals are at it again. Location, Keele campus, outside York University subway station. I guess they're going to have a big rally there, I think, tomorrow. Yeah, Thursday, June 6th, tomorrow, 2 p.m. All out rally in support of York University's student encampment at the Dome. They're not waiting for Sunday. It's Thursday, June 6th, 2 p.m. The People's Commons for Palestine, all out, no holds barred, as the pro-Palestinian protesters take to the front lawn in support of Gaza. Little Gaza, big Gaza, medium-sized Gazas all over the world. They'll sell you the whole seat, but you'll only need the edge. Sorry, I should be. Well, they want to divest. Divest now. Do not do business with Jews. We demand that you no longer do business with Jews. I'm not joking. Well, I am, but not. That's exactly what they want. They want divestment. They want a boycott of academic institutions and companies that support the Zionist occupation, which is a politically correct way of saying anybody that supports Israel. and the Jews, and the Jews. Let's just call it what it is. That's what it is. Oh, man. Canada, 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 what has become of you? So, I don't think they're going to have monster trucks there, though. Here, let's take a look at this. York University, popular university for Palestine. Divest from occupation, invest in liberation. Okay. So, same story, different campus, spreading, still growing. They say they're going to stay there as long as it takes. That's what I hear at all the protests, every protest I've ever been to. How long are you going to stay? For as long as it takes. Could be here a while. Yeah. Don't want you doing business with them pesky Jewish people. You got to divest and disarm everything. They don't talk like this. I don't even know why I'm using that accent. I'm in a weird mood. I shouldn't be. Maybe it's because the news is so dark. Let me use my pen and start crossing these off the list. Did it. Okay. What else do we have going on? Well, protests all over the place. Still, the protest at University of Toronto is still going on too. That's still happening. The university, I guess, has an injunction, but they have to wait until they can't do anything about it until June 19th. That's when they're going to have a court hearing. Can't do anything. No, can't do anything. Oh, just impossible. Yeah. But, hey. Oh, John, I did watch the video that you sent to me. I watched most of it. I still have to watch a little bit of it. Try sending me something I haven't heard before. That would maybe help me a little bit. Foreign interference. Shall we get into that? Yeah, let's get into that because that one's a heavy-duty story. And the Liberals remain on the hot seat. And I'm not sure that the answers we're getting are going to... I'm certain, actually, that the answers we're getting from the Liberal politicians on this issue will not satisfy the majority of Canadians. This sounds like whether they are or they aren't, they're going to be accused of a cover-up here. This is about the probe into foreign interference. We had the whole inquiry. There's evidence from the Canadian Security and Intelligence Service, the RCMP, various, a lot of different sources testifying that we have foreign governments meddling in our elections. They've tried to downplay it, but now, more than that, we actually know, or they know, is more to the point, the government knows specifically which MPs, or at least some of which, they know who some of the members of Parliament are, who, according to a new report, wittingly have been cooperating and colluding with foreign governments as part of this problem with foreign interference. They're literally working with them, apparently. And yet, we're not allowed to know who they are. Why? Well, here's Public Safety Minister Dominic LeBlanc. This was actually from yesterday. I'm going to run this first, and then we're going to show you what happened in the House of Commons today. Here we go.
Do you know who the MPs are who are the witting participants in foreign interference? Are you comfortable sharing a caucus room with them? Have you been briefed?
I'm briefed all the time by national security agencies on these matters. And as I've said yesterday, and I'm going to repeat today, I'm not going to address specific allegations or specific pieces of intelligence information. I have a lot of confidence in CSIS and the RCMP to do the work that they're required to do under law. As I said yesterday, an individual piece of intelligence is like a piece of a puzzle. Those are the words of the director of CSIS. You have to have a number of pieces before you can get an accurate picture of the puzzle. I'm confident that the intelligence professionals do this work for the security of Canadians, and I have confidence that they'll continue to do this work.
Do Canadians have a right to know? Do you think Canadians have a right to know who those MPs are?
I think Canadians need to know that the national security and intelligence agencies are doing the important work that they do. I think Canadians understand that this work is done with a certain requirement of confidentiality and secrecy to protect sources and to protect the methods in which the intelligence agencies operate. Some of the information that our intelligence agencies have come from foreign partners. They come often with caveats around the use and the release of that information. We apply some of those same caveats when we share intelligence information with partners. So no other Western democracy announces the details of intelligence investigations publicly, and to pretend that that's a reasonable solution is not, I think, consistent with international practice or with what's necessary to protect the security of Canadians.
It's suggested that there's an internal review now happening with respect to whether any Liberal MPs, I guess, in the caucus might be the subject of some of the things in this report. What did she mean by that? What is this internal review? Can you?
That would be a good question to ask her. I know that our government is always reviewing the security measures that are in place to detect and disrupt foreign interference. That's why we asked the National Security Intelligence Committee of Parliamentarians to do this work. That's why Justice Hugg, as public inquiry was set up. That's why her recommendations at the end of the year will add to the body of advice the government has. We have constantly evolved and adapted our measures to disrupt and detect foreign interference, something that no previous government put into place. I think it's important to identify. So this is part of the ongoing work that we've been doing over many years to ensure that our national security agencies have all of the authorities appropriate to do the work that we expect. That's why I'm so positive about the work that's going on right now in Parliament around the countering foreign interference legislation that all political parties are working on collaboratively. That should be very reassuring to us. Excusez, Julianne.
I'm not reassured. I'm not reassured at all, actually. I don't think Canadians. This is, you know what? We don't even know if these members of Parliament who may be compromised or apparently were wittingly, knowingly working with foreign governments, we don't even know if they're Liberals. But I'll tell you this is hurting the Liberal Party. This is hurting Justin Trudeau. It makes me think that it's Liberals. It probably is. That would be consistent with all the evidence we have seen so far. Today in the House of Commons, Pierre Poilievre, leader of the official opposition, Conservatives, made this issue front and center. Also got into the Green New Slush Fund, not the Green New Deal, the Green New Slush Fund issue. Here's Poilievre.
Mr. Speaker, the National Security and Intelligence Committee of Parliamentarians has indicated that members of this House purposely helped hostile foreign actors. Canadians have a right to know who and what the information was.
The committee indicates there are members of this House that have knowingly worked for foreign hostile governments. Canadians have a right to know who and what is the information. Who are they?
The Honourable Minister of Public Safety.
Mr. Speaker, the Leader of the Opposition knows very well that no government, including the government of which he was a member, is going to discuss particularities of intelligence information publicly, so he knows better than that. But the good news, Mr. Speaker, is if he wanted to get the appropriate security clearance and be able to see the confidential report of the National Security and Intelligence Committee of Parliamentarians, he would be much more informed than he is now, and we would invite him to do so he wouldn't stand up and cast aspersions on the floor of the House of Commons without any information whatsoever.
The Honourable Leader of the Official Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, we don't need secrets and confidentiality. That's what got us into this problem in the first place. What we need are the facts so that Canadians can judge. Just like in the case of the Green Slush Fund, the Auditor General revealed $123 million of spending that broke the rules, $59 million of projects that never should have been awarded money at all, $76 million in money gone to companies connected to the Liberal appointed members, including $217,000 to the chair of the fund that was giving out the money. Will the government support our common sense plan to hand over all this information to the RCMP for a police investigation?
The Honourable Deputy Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, it is no surprise that today the Conservatives don't want to talk about the economy. But we know that the economy is the issue that most concerns Canadians.
Right.
And that is why I am so glad to share some great news. Today, the Bank of Canada lowered interest rates. Down, and it is thanks to our economically responsible fiscal plan. Our plan is working.
The Honourable Leader of the Official Opposition.
After 9 years of this Prime Minister, with the support of the Bloc Québécois, Montreal is in a state of chaos, crime, drugs.
Okay. Well, that's enough of that for the moment. The two things. Poilievre could get security clearance and then view the confidential information, the secret information on foreign interference. But he knows it's a trap. If he gets the security clearance, views the information, then he's bound to secrecy. So he is not in a position to put that information out. The suggestion from the Liberal side of the House, or the attempt to leave the impression with the public that he might be able to do something with that information, is misleading. It's deceptive. So and then Poilievre would be hogtied. He would be unable to perform effectively in the House to push for answers. That's why he hasn't taken the bait. He hasn't applied for security clearance. He hasn't looked at the information. He wants it out in public. And so that's, I would say, the proper course of action. He's smart, and he realized that that is a trap. So I'm glad that he hasn't done that, and I don't think he will. Now, if he becomes Prime Minister, we have a different situation. He then will have to look at that information. But as Prime Minister and leading the sitting government, he would be more in a position to push and navigate toward having that information released to the public. So that is where we are at. It seems to me that where there's smoke, there's fire. There's got to be something going on there that the public needs to know about, especially before we get into this next federal election. And should those members of Parliament who may be compromised, if they are compromised, should they even be allowed to run again? Do these members of Parliament at this point even realize that they've been found out? Do they know that the government knows what they've been doing? They may not. So there may be legitimate reasons why they haven't released the names yet. They might be fishing, reeling these people in, so that they can land a couple of big ones? I don't know. But at some point, the public needs to know. I think the public deserves to know. And you need to know that Polyev can't take the security clearance and do anything effective with it. Now, on the other issue of the economy, the Bank of Canada rate did cut the interest rate by 25 basis points. And I've just got some audio burning in my ears here. I got to turn that off. Okay, so this new announcement puts the policy rate at 4.75%, down from the 5% that it has been at since July of last year. Now, you're going to hear a lot of different reasons why this may have happened. This signal would normally signal, I would say, would indicate that inflation is coming down. The inflation rate officially was at 2.7% in April, down from 2.9% in March, and the economy grew by 1.7% in the first quarter of 2024. But I'm telling you that inflation is much higher than that because of the way they calculate inflation these days. They cook the numbers. The inflation rate is calculated by putting together a basket of goods and services, a sample basket, to determine what the prices are, to determine the cost of living, and some other factors. Anyway, the formula is different today than it was, say, back in the 1970s. And what we've all been seeing, what you're all experiencing at the grocery store, shows you that inflation is much higher than that. In real terms, over the past 2 or 3 years, it's been running at about 15%, probably in real terms, per year for your basic basket of goods and services. So why would they cut the interest rate right now when inflation is still a serious issue, as it is with all other Western countries right now? It's because we're experiencing not just inflation, but stagflation, where you've got slow or no growth, but rising inflation. Normally, you see what they would do is they would increase the interest rate to increase the cost of money, to make it more expensive to borrow, to curb consumption, to cool off the economy. But that's okay if you have growth, but if you're already in a no growth or even negative growth cycle, and you have to limit production, if they're going to use limiting production to curb inflation and limit consumption, make you do with less, then you run the risk of pushing the economy into a recession or a depression. And that's where we're at right now. So they've got no wiggle room. That's what I'm seeing. They don't know what to do with this economy because it's so messed up, because they printed so much money during the pandemic. And now what you have is people who are facing the bill collector. We're kind of getting at the end of the rope for a lot of people. It was bad enough during the pandemic when a lot of businesses, small businesses, went belly up. Now you're getting the next wave of bankruptcies, people losing jobs. I know some people who just in the past month were laid off. The economy is slowing down. The Bank of Canada, the government, they realize this. They have to stimulate it to try and keep things going so that we don't end up in an economic tailspin. So they cut the interest rate. It's all they could do. But now what you're going to get is you're going to get more inflation because it's the only tool that they've really had to this point to combat it is interest rates. That's what the bank normally uses as the tool, but they're approaching it all wrong. That's not the solution to the economic problem. Trudeau isn't smart enough to figure it out, and neither is Freeland. And the Bank of Canada, the only tool they have is the interest rates. The government, though, has other mechanisms, other tools at their disposal, and they're not even going to the toolbox to make use of them. You need to grow your way out of this. You need to fuel the economy. You need to reduce regulations, provide incentives through tax breaks, not handouts, just to encourage investment, both domestic and foreign, into industries, private investment, so that they're not using tax dollars, your money, giving your money to big companies to create jobs. You need to get the government out of the way and encourage private investment and make it pay to go to work by reducing taxes on the middle class, reduce energy prices to fuel the economy so that people can afford to go to work, so that they can afford to go on like a vacation for the summer with their families to fuel the tourism industry. Cheap fuel is the key to everything. You start taking measures like that, and the economy will spring to life. And if you also make best use of today's new technologies, including AI, to increase productivity, we can use the increased productivity, the increase of production to increase wealth, increase exports, increase the production of natural resources from lumber to oil to natural gas, export those energy resources, fuel the economy, get back on track, start paying off the debt. That's what they need to do. But the liberals, the progressives, that's not the way their minds work. All they want to do is cut, tax, make you work for little or less, enslave you with socialism, put you on the dole, keep you in line. They don't want you to have too much. They don't want you consuming very much because you're just a big carbon producer. You breathe and you eat. And they don't like that, I guess, is what it comes down to. Growth, man, that's what we need. Growth. That's what I would do. If I were in charge, that's not likely to happen anytime in the next millennium, but that's where it's at. And we need to be taking note of what's going on at that economic summit over in St. Petersburg and the BRICS nations. That is really heavy-duty stuff. I also see that the government here is just acting like it's business as usual. The Bank of Canada just going through the motions. We've seen this time and time again through history, and I'm old, so I've seen it happen many times, where they play with the interest rates and do all this little dance. I saw it with Justin Trudeau's father, Pierre Elliott Trudeau. Same scenario, high inflation, only it's way worse now. But with the BRICS nations coming online, a direct challenger to the Western economy, the formation of a new currency that will be in direct competition with the US dollar, we're in for a rough ride. Make no mistake about it. Turkey now apparently looking at joining the BRICS nations. That may happen as early as October when they actually have the BRICS conference coming up. I believe that's when it is. This economic forum or summit over in St. Petersburg, you're going to see, all the big BRICS players there. Plus, you'll also probably see some Western businesses there looking for new opportunities and a way to hedge their bets heading into the future. So investments, global investments in the macroeconomic sphere, you're going to see some big changes globally. And here in the West, man, big corporations, companies, governments, they need to start rethinking things, rethinking the strategy. We won't be able to use the U.S. dollar. They won't be able to use the U.S. dollar as a weapon to coerce countries into doing the things that they want to do. But the other danger in all of this is that as there is this affront, this challenge to the Western economic dominance, I fear that if we have the wrong person in the White House and the wrong leaders in place, that they will respond in an aggressive way because they won't be smart enough to come up with intelligent cooperative solutions on the economic side to foster prosperity universally around the world. The other, and that goes on both sides as well. You know, what I'm also seeing is that, and I think that Mr. Putin is dialed in on this way more than our leaders are on this side. He understands how this game is played. And he understands, I think these BRICS nations are clued in to the fact that every economy, the stability of any economy is based on public confidence. And a large part of what's the information war that's going on right now is undermining confidence. Undermining confidence. The foreign governments are trying to undermine confidence in our governments, in the value of the dollar, in the stability of our economy. We're being told constantly that it's all going to fall apart. Just all this negativity. And when regardless of whether it's the dollar is propped up by the gold standard, or whether it's the petrodollar, or whether it's just a straight up fiat currency supported by nothing other than confidence, the confidence of the people, which would include Bitcoin, which is really the foundation is nothing. It's not based on anything other than public confidence and adoption of the currency itself. But you undermine that confidence and you get people selling it off. You'll get a run on the dollar, a run on the bank, which is to say everybody's going to cash out, get rid of it. They don't want it anymore, and then everything collapses. That's the danger. That's why we're being hammered with so much negative information about the economy. They're trying to, and the government too. It's to destabilize, not just the government, but the economy. You destabilize the economy, and you undermine the government too. It's a twofold thing. And as these BRICS nations come online and they get more and more support, they are going to push, and can't blame them, right? They're just doing what they think is in their own best interest. So they're pushing to undermine confidence in the economy here and boost confidence in their economy. They're so far ahead of the curve on this stuff. I think our guys, our economists, our bankers, our politicians, they're not dialed in. They're not clued in. They don't see the threat. They think that they're just gonna. I don't know. They're sleepwalking through this. They really need to be doing something to protect our economy, to make it more competitive and resilient in the face of this new competition, and embrace the competition, because you're not going to stop it. So you better learn how to work with it so that you can maintain your prosperity. They're going to have to, if this all goes down the way I'm seeing it, they're going to have to reduce the supply, the money supply of the US dollar, because people are not going to want, a lot of countries will not want the dollar anymore. And with Saudi Arabia potentially joining BRICS as well, the dollar is going to be under extreme pressure, because it's Saudi Arabia and other Arab nations forcing governments to purchase oil in US dollars since the 1970s that has propped up the US dollar. That's what ensures its value, not gold, oil. And beyond that, it's the military protection in exchange for that arrangement that props up the economy. The U.S. protects Saudi Arabia. That's been the deal. That's all falling apart now. And actually, the key moment in where we began to see severe cracks in the relationship between Saudi Arabia and the United States was when that journalist, Khashoggi, was killed. It's a strange thing. It reminded me so much of what happened in World War I, the beginning of World War I, the death of that journalist, who actually was very connected to some very important families, including Osama bin Laden, strangely enough. There's so much going on, man, that people are not really, they're not connecting the dots. Better wake up. You think that the New World Order is your government? You think that it's Trudeau and Biden bringing in their New World Order? They have the current world order. The New World Order is before you. You're seeing it, and you're cheerleading for it when you're cheerleading for Putin. That's the New World Order. Now, it might actually, you might like it. I was watching a video earlier today where it was a Q video, right, that somebody sent me. So I clicked on it. It was about the economy, and I'm watching it. Then I realized that it was a Q video, but the person narrating it is cheering for Putin and cheering for BRICS. What does that tell you? It tells you that that's part of the information war, and telling you that the downfall of the American economy, the Western economies, will actually be a good thing. I'm like, what the hell are you talking about? When that happens, let me tell you what happens to you. You're going to own nothing, and you're not going to be happy. You're not going to be happy. Oh, by the way, do you like your free health care? Yeah. Kiss that goodbye. Talk about personal responsibility. Better pull up your pants, because you're gonna have to take care of yourself when this stuff happens, man. I'm just surrounded by people who think they're wide awake. They're walking around with one eye closed. You think that it's do you think Biden's no. George Bush, when he used the phrase New World Order, that was then. This is now. Wake the hell up, man. I'm not criticizing any of the BRICS nations. I'm not criticizing Russia or China. They're just doing what they have to do. We need to do what we have to do so that we can live with this stuff. And when I say do what we have to do, I mean adjust our economy, adjust the way that we're approaching our economic policies. Integrate, cooperate, trade, get it together. But look out for the best interests of our country. These guys, though, they're not, Trudeau, not swift enough. They don't get it, man. They're just like, oh, we're going to go on. We're going to cut the interest rate by 0.5%, and it's going to be fine, and we're going to lie about the inflation. No. And it's going to take a little bit more than that. It's going to take a little more economic creativity than that. And if they don't get their head screwed on straight, man, we're all going to really, really suffer.
Maverick News. The world is watching.
All right, so why was Justin Trudeau not in the House of Commons? Because he was here instead today, getting off this plane to attend a D-Day ceremony tomorrow. Oh, here we go. Come on back here, JT. There he is. Now, I can't see his socks, but he's got his suit and tie on. And there it is. There's the photo op. So look for more on that tomorrow. And that's why he wasn't in the house today. So, and back home here in Canada, we'll get to some American news for the half of our audience who presides or lives in the US of A. However, I'm not even going to show you the pictures of this because it's too sensitive, the information, because we're dealing with a couple of children in the community of Kingston, Ontario. A mother has been charged in connection with the death of her baby. Now, this happened 5 days ago. We just learned, well, we knew about this really the day of, I think. And Brian Howell gave us this information from Kingston. And I did nothing with it because we needed to make sure that we had accurate information. Police were not releasing anything on this at the time. All we had was some information from neighbors. That was not enough for me to feel comfortable talking about it, but we knew about this 5 days ago when it happened. We've been sitting on the information to treat it with the respect that it deserves, and so that we could be responsible with it. And so what happened here is that a child was found deceased in an apartment on Russell Street in Kingston, which is located between Patrick and Kent Streets, by a representative of Family and Children's Services. Now, a couple of neighbors, I guess, noticed a little boy in the window waving and got the attention of some residents. But what happened is the mother, I guess, was not present, not in the apartment, hadn't been there for some time. So when officers entered, they found two boys, 3 years old and a 7-month-old, alone and abandoned. And the sorry, I lost my place here. Again, I lost my place. The 7-month-old was found deceased in the building, and the 3-year-old is now in the care of. Well, it's. Hang on a second here. I'm having a computer problem. Everything's kind of blown up here suddenly. Let me take a quick break so I can fix this, and I'll be right back on the other side.
Greetings, brave Mavericks. Our quest for truth continues. We go beyond fake news. Together we expose propaganda. Together we pull others out of rabbit holes. We are maverick thinkers. We are all unique individuals, defenders of individual rights and freedoms, credible, trusted, grounded in reality. Maverick News, Maverick News. Defending free speech, free speech. Donate at freedomreporters.com. Do it now. Tomorrow may be too late. Maverick News. The world is watching.
Sorry about that, I'm back. So yeah, 32-year-old woman, the mother. We're not naming the mother or anyone else who, because we don't want to compromise or identify even indirectly the identity of the surviving child. for legal reasons and for the welfare of the child. So we're trying to be very careful with the information that we share with you here tonight. We do know that the mother has been charged with criminal negligence causing death, failing to provide necessities of life, and 2 counts of abandoning a child under 10 years old. Police in Kingston asking anyone who might have information to contact them. And of course, they're reminding everyone that information can be shared anonymously, either just by phoning police or by calling Crime Stoppers. So, the investigation there continues. Now, that all happening while another case about a mass shooting in Etobicoke in the Greater Toronto area went down, and a second person has now died in connection with that, according to police. An autopsy will be performed to determine the specific cause of death. This happened Sunday night. Police saying they can't confirm that it's a homicide and related to the shooting until the autopsy on the second person is completed. In total, 5 people were shot in a parking lot at the North Albion Collegiate Institute. This happens to be at the corner of Mount Olive Drive and Kipling Avenue. I would say that there hasn't really been a ton of media coverage on this, which surprises me, especially given the scale of it. One of the 5 people who died in hospital the night of the shooting has been identified as 61-year-old Delroy George Parks. I have a photo of Mr. Parks here for you. Delroy George Parks died the night of the shooting. 5 people shot. He passed away that night. Second person, now also deceased. Investigation there continuing. So we will try to update that for you in the days ahead as well. Just another indication of where Canada is at in terms of crime. That's an issue that is really, again, hurting the Liberals and Trudeau specifically very much. The opposition hammering away at it. That's why we're also seeing increasing calls for Trudeau to resign. Even within his own party, cracks are showing. They want him to step down. And over at the CBC, they're even talking about it, the state-funded broadcaster. I wouldn't say the CBC is always pro-liberal. I would say sometimes they're even more pro-NDP. Not very pro-conservative, that's for sure. Let's take a look here. So this is just an example of what's going on over at the CBC. With regard to this should give you an indication of the seriousness of Justin Trudeau's slide. Headline, will the Liberals dump Trudeau? And this is an article about it. A lot of party insiders even talking about Trudeau needs to go. That's because Poilievre is so far out in the polls. And then here, they're interviewing David Hurl, a partner at Rubicon Strategy and a chief campaign strategist for the Liberals. See if we can play.
Yeah, I don't. I mean, there's other examples. I mean, Dalton McGuinty stepped down a year and a half with a lot of stepped down with an election not imminent, and that gave Kathleen Wynne a year and a half to govern and look different and establish a difference, and she was able to win election.
That's a reference to a provincial election in Ontario, but Liberals nonetheless. And I think he was involved with her campaign directly, this Liberal strategist. Anyway, I'm going to let this play just a little bit longer just to give you a little brief clip from this interview done on Front Burner, a CBC program, which you may want to seek out and listen to find out more about the pressure from within the party itself on Justin Trudeau to resign.
After that. But you're right. If you're only given 4 or 6 months, it's impossible to put a different imprint on things or to make people think real change has occurred. And that's...
He's indicating that if Trudeau were to step down, his successor, whoever steps into the role of leader of the Liberal Party, would only have maybe 4 to 6 months to establish themselves in the public mind as being a viable candidate and also create the impression that real change had taken place within the party itself.
That's the danger. I mean, I think it is quite likely that Mr. Trudeau will step down and not run again. But I think it's unlikely that he would do that this summer. It'll be ahistorical.
You know, I want to ask you about Kathleen Wynne.
Okay, so keep your eyes on this man, because when you're seeing headlines like this, even in the CBC, which receives huge sums of money from the Libs every year, you know that Trudeau's in a whole heap of trouble. I keep telling everybody, be patient. His days are numbered. Even his own people don't really want him anymore. So if you're not a Trudeau fan, and I bet you there's like 100% of you in our audience that you're not Trudeau fans, hang tough. Brighter days are ahead for you. I can pretty much guarantee it. Okay, let's take another quick, short break, and I'm going to queue up the Boeing Starliner story for you. They finally got that thing off the ground.
Hello, world. Are you awake? Uniting humankind by liberating millions of minds at a time. Maverick News. The world is watching.
The New World Order. Government overreach. The Great Reset. Mainstream media lies. Now more than ever, independent voices are needed. Donate now, at freedomreporters.com. That's freedomreporters.com. Maverick News. The antivirus program. For your mind.
Okay, and Boeing. They've had a lot of delays, canceled launches, but today they finally got Starliner off the ground. This is NASA footage.
Centaur flight press. 25.
Status check.
Go Atlas. Go Centaur. Go Starliner. Godspeed, Butch and Sonny.
Ten, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Ignition. And liftoff of Starliner and Atlas V, carrying 2 American heroes, drawing a line to the stars for all of us.
Commander Butch Wilmore, they're calling down to Mission Control here in Houston that the spacecraft has begun rolling into the right attitude for its ascent. The guidance, navigation, and control officer here in the room seeing good data on that.
passing through max Q, or the point of maximum dynamic pressure where the forces of air friction are highest, which in Sunny will shortly be passing through Mach 1, where the speed of sound.
Boeing producing this rocket through a contract with the government. SpaceX also getting a, similar contracts.
Got a good throttle up.
This competitor.
Starliner and Atlas.
Competitor to
Looking
SpaceX.
good, speed and attitude increasing as expected. Coming up in less than 20 seconds, the solid rocket boosters will run out of fuel and burn out.
Good SRB burnout. Good SRB.
Now that the fuel in the solid rocket boosters has been depleted, the Atlas main booster stage will be continuing its burn for about the next 3 minutes.
Good handle.
And these rockets will be used to...
That call, good handle, from Capcom Joshua Kutrick, indicating that the crew now has the ability to initiate an abort manually if needed. All looking good so far. Now 2 minutes into Starliner's flight and coming up on the solid rocket booster jettison at the 2 minute and 40-second mark.
Duck and cover. Don't want that thing to hit you on the noggin. So yeah, these rockets will be used to take astronauts to the International Space Station after the discontinuation of the Space Shuttle program.
CLT on that good trajectory.
NASA was
CLT.
reliant entirely on...
The solid rocket boosters have now been jettisoned after seeing Starliner through its first 90 seconds of flight. Team on the ground here confirming that it was a good jettison and that the vehicle's trajectory continues to look good. Now 3 minutes into today's flight.
Yeah, they were reliant on Soyuz rockets to get to the International Space Station. Now, America back in the space race. Through this public-private business venture. That's up, and away. And their beautiful, beautiful rocket, not one of those Chinese balloons. Pretty cool stuff. So
Atlas booster now throttling back to limit the G-forces on Butch and Sunny, trying to limit that to around 3.5 times the force of gravity you would feel while on the ground.
And Houston, they have a plumbing problem. This delayed flight is needed very badly on the space station because apparently they have a problem with the urine recycling system, where the urine is purified and then turned back into drinking water after being properly filtered, etc. And it's busted, so they're taking parts up there to get that fixed. So they'll be welcomed with open arms when they walk through the door or the hatch. Okay, now I should also just mention as well. This comes just days after China had a great achievement of their own on in the space race. They sent a rocket up and they managed to land on the far side of the moon. And this is what that looked like. I have video here of China's lunar lander making its descent. This was, I believe, 2 days ago. Yeah, 2 days ago. And there we go. We have touchdown. Bingo. There it is. Pow. Success. Way to go, China! They made it. So this lunar lander got down onto the surface, far side of the moon, and they're the only country to have landed on the far side of the moon, having also done so back before 2019. And the Chinese National Space Administration has described this mission's landing and liftoff, because they've taken off again, as an unprecedented feat in human lunar exploration. They managed to collect some rock samples, bring them on board, and they've successfully launched, and they're back en route to Earth with their rocks. So pretty cool stuff there. I have a couple of pictures here. First, there's a picture of the Chinese lunar lander on the far side of the moon. Now, you don't get to see the far side of the moon every day, that's for sure. They sent a little remote-controlled robot out to take a selfie. And they planted this flag on the far side of the moon. So, we still haven't learned our lessons as human beings, because they're already dividing up the lunar surface, I guess, just like the Earth. The East versus the West. The United States planted their flag on the other side, on the sunny side, and the Chinese have planted their flag on the dark side of the moon. Well, may we have everlasting lunar peace in the universe. Pray for that. If only we could just get through the problems we have right now in Gaza and Ukraine. Today was Jerusalem Day. 18 people were arrested during Jerusalem Day chaos. Arrested on suspicion of violent crimes, assault, and threats, and disorderly conduct at the annual March to mark Jerusalem Day, according to Israeli police. This apparently involved what the media is describing as far-right, ultra-Israeli nationalists. So you see, in every country you have a variety of people from different political stripes, and in this case, Israeli nationalists, or ultra-nationalists as described by some, clashing with pro-Palestinian protesters on Jerusalem Day. I have some video here to show you what things looked like as these celebrations. Now, 18 arrested. I would say, given the size of the crowds in some places, it was more peaceful than maybe people are being, than the impression people are being left with. Here, look at the size of this crowd. That's a pro-Israel crowd, by the way. So there's that. But then there was also this. You had young West Bank, I guess. Well, you can see. This is just a clash. And this is the stuff that's being pushed out there on social media. Again, I think sometimes it's hard to have proper perspective on some of this stuff, because you're getting focused on a video, and how widespread was this stuff, I don't know. We know that 18 people arrested, but given the scale of some of what we've seen here, that's not really that much. But you do have this. And you also have this. It's getting nasty out there. So there's all that. There's lots more that I could show you, but you've got the idea. We've seen a ton of it since October 7th. So let's move on to other news. China. Apparently, this kind of ties back into, it definitely does tie back into the foreign interference stories that we've been talking about here tonight. We're being told that China is trying to lure away military trainers from the West. Now, this is a statement from the U.S. Office of the Director of National Intelligence on behalf of the Five Eyes Intelligence Partnership. They're saying that Beijing is using private companies in South Africa and China to target potential recruits from NATO and Western countries by offering what they're calling exorbitant salaries. So they're going after, I guess, most often military pilots and other Air Force personnel. And this is a big concern for those involved in the National Counterintelligence and Security Center. And they've been warning Western countries about this danger for years. And they do have measures in place to try and counter this, but China has been working around a lot of those efforts, apparently, and they're concerned, and they are asking people who may be approached by China with recruitment offers to contact the FBI, I guess CSIS in Canada, police, whomever, to report this stuff. And I'm not even entirely sure what the law is surrounding that, because I guess it would depend on what people may have signed in terms of confidentiality and what obligations they are under to keep state secrets. The officials here are saying potential recruits might be contacted directly by headhunters or their own personal acquaintances from the military, or maybe indirectly through professional networking sites, job platforms, etc. And if they accept these jobs, they're, I guess, most often being whisked away to China, South Africa, or other countries where they're paid very, very well, given the opportunity to fly around in exotic aircraft and promised all kinds of different perks to go with the job. And I guess by doing something like that, by hiring retired military personnel or people who have just recently exited, I guess it would be an extremely cheap way to gather intelligence, information. And of course, we do see here in Canada that the federal government recently introduced Bill C-70, foreign interference legislation, and that updates the Security of Information Act, which is what they've been talking about in the House. And that includes Canadian Forces members in the list of people permanently bound to secrecy, you see. And again, I don't really know exactly what the law has said or what the new bill, how it's written to restrict what kind of information and activities former military personnel can engage in. So the new bill, I do know, amends the Act's definition of what special operational information that cannot be shared is, and that would include military vulnerabilities or advantages of the Canadian forces, but I just don't have all the details. So maybe we can find out more about that, share that with you another night. Okay, so also, you know what it is? It is not just Pride Month, it's Indigenous History Month. So you have two things this month, and that is a progressive thing, I would say. Here, let's just take a look at their Twitter feed. Justin Trudeau today posted, whether it was him or his staff, online about Indigenous History Month. So I went to the Indigenous History Month Twitter feed just to take a look, see what they're all about. We're dedicated to amplifying our focus on Indigenous education, providing our schools with unique learning opportunities. Recently, some of our Indigenous students traveled to Lanqua Nikankio, Thompson Island, in Akwesasne for a 4-credit cultural camp. Okay. National Indigenous History Month. And, yeah, a lot of culture. Interesting, though, as you scroll down, you don't have to go too far. And well, here he's saying that, funny story, before Columbus, your God didn't exist in America. Yeah, there was no Christianity here before people from Europe arrived. But what was I going to show you? Yeah, right here. Celebrate June. And then you look at you got the pride flag up here in their feed. June is Pride Month, and June is Recreation and Parks Month. It's a bunch of months. June is Seniors Month. We got a bunch of different things. And there's the pride flag again. That's why I say when I say it's sort of progressive, it's definitely a progressive political venture. Indigenous History Month, Pride Month, Seniors Month, all these months. It's because it is, it's injected from a place of progressivity. So that's okay. But while that's very progressive, some people sometimes think some of this stuff maybe goes too far, including Elon Musk, who took note of the University of British Columbia, which has a job posting up for a research position, apparently, and it excludes white males. So Elon Musk took to Twitter, well, X, and he's questioning diversity and inclusion hiring practices at UBC. The job is for a research chair position in the Faculty of Dentistry. Somebody brought this to Elon Musk's attention. They were mocking the fact that candidates would be restricted to those from equity-seeking groups, including women and Indigenous people, at the expense of candidates who are, and this is in quotation marks, white heterosexual males. And then Musk online asked this question: is this legal in Canada? And indeed it is. In fact, mainstream media jumping to the defense, I would say, of this policy, because they're pointing out that it isn't just policy, it's actually mandated by the government. So they're quick to criticize Musk just for even asking the question, is it legal? And I guess they feel like they're trying to school Elon Musk on this, saying, oh, yes, it's not just legal, it's required. And then there's a quote here from the legal analyst brought in by CTV News, Daniel Lublin, who says, quote, Mr. Musk has no clue what he's talking about as it relates to Canadian law. He has no idea whatsoever. I don't think that's the point. I don't think that Elon Musk is trying to present himself as any kind of a legal expert or authority on Canadian law. He's asking a question because there's the larger issue of fairness, equal opportunity versus equal outcome, and just what some people would argue that hiring practice is discriminatory. You're excluding an entire group of people from participating or competing on a fair basis. You're not even allowing them to apply. That kind of policy, in my view, is why you're getting so much pushback from people. At least a group of people. It pushes people to the extremes. It forces people over there. You're creating enemies with policies like that. If the government can't see the unintended consequences of a policy like that, then they're just freaking stupid. You can't do that to people and have it's just the way it is. It's no different, in my view, than saying that, somebody who is, I don't know, yellow with pink polka dot skin isn't allowed to apply for a job. Anyone with yellow pink polka dot skin need not apply. Now, I understand, trying to make amends for past sins and la 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 la, but that kind of approach gonna backfire. It is backfiring, whether you care to admit it or not, because it's radicalizing some people. Better figure that one out real quick, or we're gonna get into a lot more trouble in the days and months and years ahead. Now, here's Musk in this interview being asked about who he thinks would be, who he might vote for, I guess, or who he might endorse. And he's saying now he's sort of leaning away from Biden. I don't know. Here we go. So many things clicking and the computer's sluggish. Come on, Elon. Give us your clip. Here we go. The Don Lemon Show.
I may, in the final stretch, endorse the candidate, but I don't know yet. I want to make a considered decision before the election, and if I do decide to endorse a candidate, then I will explain exactly why.
Are you leaning towards anyone?
No.
You're not leaning towards anyone? Because you've been...
I'm leaning away from Biden.
You're leaning...
I've made no secret of that.
Are you concerned about losing your security clearance if Biden is reelected? Does that have anything to do with it?
No.
You are
Isn't this an old interview?
You're not going to endorse anyone.
Yeah.
It seems like an endorsement of President Trump because there are only two people
back in March
who are running now. Nikki Haley is out.
Didn't go well.
What could happen between now and the election? So we'll see who, in the final analysis, are the choices for president. And at that point, I may or may not endorse one of the candidates. If I do, I will provide a very detailed explanation of why I am endorsing one.
Okay, so yeah, that was an old interview. Somebody sent that to me in my email, and they're like, "Hey, you got to run this thing." And we're not running on Instagram tonight. That's weird. Okay, sorry about that, Instagram. Not that you can hear me, but we'll get it to you later. I guess the feed didn't take hold over there, or on Wimkin tonight either. Couple of technical problems. Still worth taking note of what happened with that interview. Lemon asked Musk some questions that didn't sit well with him. Let's just put it that way. And then, things have certainly changed with the conviction of Trump. And now I'm seeing tonight that they're looking at maybe even taking Trump's guns away. He won't be allowed to possess weapons because of his conviction. My goodness. That is really going to set people off, isn't it? In fact, here, I've got a headline on that. Trump's gun license expected to be revoked. Check it out. After his conviction and hush money trial, former President Donald Trump, this is on NBC, his gun license is expected to be revoked now that he has been convicted on 34 felony counts of falsifying business records, according to a New York Police Department spokesperson. Trump's gun license for New York City has been suspended upon his indictment, the spokesperson said. The Trump campaign did not immediately respond to a request for comment on the expected revocation, which was first reported by CNN. Gun licenses are often revoked after convictions in New York, and it's unclear when the former president has last held a gun, but his gun license for New York City was active at the time of his indictment in the hush money case. Unbelievable. Never thought I'd see something like that, but maybe it shouldn't be that surprising because I remember what happened to Richard Nixon. I was just a kid. I remember when he resigned. I watched it live on television. Not exactly, that didn't happen exactly the way historians depict it. What you get today is sort of a progressive version of that history, a woke version, a liberal version. Well, even at the time, that's the way he was cast in the media. But there was more to it. There's another side to it, as there usually is. Not that the history is inaccurate, it's just that the perspective is skewed. And people are left with some false impressions as a result. Nevertheless, that's another story for another night to rewind and review. Toyota. Oh boy. They got caught cheating. And Toyota chairman Akio Toyoda has apologized for massive cheating on certification tests for 7 vehicle models. And Toyota has suspended production of 3 of them. Wide-ranging faulty testing involved the use of inadequate or outdated data in collision tests and incorrect testing of airbag inflation and rear seat damage in crashes. They also falsified data on engine power tests. Volkswagen got caught a while back, remember that? Cheating on emissions tests. Well, this is Toyota's kick at the can now. The company has apologized. They say that the wrongdoing does not affect the safety of the vehicles. Among them, the Corolla subcompact and the Lexus luxury vehicles. We sincerely apologize, Toyota has said. Now, also this week, Mazda reported similar irregular certification testing. They halted production on 2 models, the Roadster and Mazda 2. It said to had incorrect engine control software, and that was used in the tests. And Mazda has also acknowledged that violations on crash tests on their 3 discontinued models do not affect the safety of those vehicles. Toyota is, I think, the biggest automaker in the world, selling more than 10 million vehicles globally. A little bit embarrassing for such a big company with a great reputation for quality. A little bit of the Teflon wearing off there. Stay with me. We'll be right back.
Hello, world. Are you awake? Uniting humankind by liberating millions of minds at a time. Maverick News. The world is watching.
So, do you ever order like skip the dishes, get your food delivered? I've never done that. Other than, pizza and Chinese food when the place delivers it itself, but no, I've never used one of those food delivery services. But not the safest of jobs, apparently. So if you've recently ordered takeout, it's likely that your meal arrived courtesy of somebody on, not necessarily driving a car, but maybe on an electric bike or maybe on a moped. But what you might not realize is how risky that job is. Now, in New York in particular, delivery workers, many of whom rely on e-bikes and mopeds, are facing alarming safety challenges. With over 65,000 app-based delivery workers in New York City alone, 80% use electric vehicles, a lot of them e-bikes. And the fatality rate for those workers is at least 36 per 100,000, according to a new study, a figure reported by the Department of Consumer and Worker Protection, marking one of the highest in the city. The rate is over 5 times higher than that of construction workers. Tragically, most of these deaths result from traffic crashes, with violent robberies also posing a significant threat. I bet you didn't think about that. I certainly never did. Injuries are also rampant, with nearly 30% of e-bike or moped delivery workers experiencing severe injuries that impact their ability to work. A major concern is the inadequate infrastructure in New York City. It would be a concern everywhere, really. Condition of the roads when you're tooling around on a bicycle or an e-bike or a moped. And while the rise in electric bikes is a win for the environment, according to, some, the city's roads remain largely car-centric, and only 3% of roads have protected bike lanes, most of which in my community are not used. I see a few people, though. I do see a friend of mine who can't get a driver's license. He has a developmental disability, and he drives around in one of those little, it looks like a little car, but it's actually like a scooter. It's enclosed. Looks like a car, and he drives that up and down the bike lanes, and that's pretty cool. It gives him a lot of mobility around town. But I live in a smaller community, and it's, I guess, somewhat appropriate to have that kind of transportation. Only 3% of roads, as I say, have bike lanes in New York. 1% of intersections are equipped with red light cameras. And the lack of infrastructure has dire consequences as a result for people involved in this kind of occupation. Bicycle deaths in the city hit a 24-year high last year, with most fatalities occurring on streets without bike lanes. Back in January, Mayor Eric Adams announced the creation of a new department focused on sustainable delivery to better regulate these kinds of services. And the Department of Transportation has also reported progress, building 32 miles of protected bike lanes last year. But it falls short of the 50-mile goal that the government had set out. So there are people working behind the scenes and out front, advocating for safer streets to help these guys out. These food delivery cyclers, e-bikers, moped drivers, The plight of delivery workers is exacerbated by their status as gig workers, which means companies like Uber Eats, Grubhub, DoorDash, they're not really required to provide benefits like health insurance. So that's a big problem for anybody that gets injured doing that kind of work. Workers' rights, workers' rights. There's an example of a job that's very hazardous that people maybe don't think about. So, yeah, it's one of those things, man. You pay a little more respect the next time somebody shows up your door with your grub. Maybe drop them a little bit extra in the form of a tip. Working hard for you out there for not really a whole lot of pay at the end of the day, and taking a big risk out there on the roads. Hats off to the delivery drivers. I'll be right back.
Maverick News. The world is watching. Greetings, brave Mavericks. Our quest for truth continues. We go beyond fake news. Together we expose propaganda. Together we pull others out of rabbit holes. We are maverick thinkers. We are all unique individuals, defenders of individual rights and freedoms, credible, trusted, grounded in reality. Maverick News, Maverick News. Defending free speech, free speech. Donate at freedomreporters.com. Do it now. Tomorrow may be too late. Maverick News. The world is watching.
Okay, so Ontario's highest court has upheld a conviction and life sentence of one of two men found guilty of terrorism charges. There was a plot to derail a passenger train between Canada and the United States. Raed Jasser is the man involved. He challenged the outcome of a 2015 trial on several grounds, including that his case should have been sentenced from that of his co-accused, which is Shaheb Essegayer. He requested that twice, was not successful. Essegayer, self-represented, refused to meaningfully participate in the court proceedings, saying that he would only be judged by the Quran, and had several outbursts in court. In one case, he spat at lawyers and threw a cup of water. He argued on appeal that the trial judge's refusal to grant him a separate trial compromised the fairness of the proceedings. So, there was a unanimous ruling today released. The Court of Appeal for Ontario said that the trial judge made reasonable and legally correct decisions on the issue, and going ahead with a joint trial did not result in an injustice. A three-judge panel also rejected Jasser's other arguments on the appeal. It's the second time the appeal court has weighed in on this case. They were both found guilty back in 2015 on 8 terror-related charges between them. And both were sentenced to life in prison with no chance of parole until 2023. They were granted a new trial back in 2019. The Supreme Court of Canada, though, later ruled that the pair had received a fair trial despite an error that was made, sending the case back to the Provincial Appeal Court. And we're going around in circles with this, and they are still convicted. So there's that. So I think that kind of gets us to a place of conclusion tonight. I think we're going to wrap it up. I appreciate you guys hanging out here. Just a reminder that if you want to support the program, you can do so by donating at freedomreporters.com. Let me put that up on the banner just to help you guys out, so you know where to go. freedomreporters.com. We could sure use the help into a new month, and bills to pay as usual, and you guys are the only support that we have out there. We're demonetized on YouTube, banned on Facebook, and we're not Alex Jones. I do not own a Rolls Royce. You can also donate at maverickdonations.com if you have the ability to do that. If you're on welfare, if you're scraping the bottom of the barrel, do not donate. Okay? If you can't afford to, don't. If you can, that's fantastic. We really appreciate the support. And if you do donate, we still have we have t-shirts, $30 or more in donation. I'll send you a Maverick News t-shirt if you give me your address. Complimentary, $60 or more, and I can send you an embroidered shirt. We have some sweatshirts, we have some hoodies still as well. And if you get one of the embroidered shirts, I scored some Batmobiles. I've got some Batmobiles. A bonus. I'll include one of those. 1/64th scale, a variety of different Batmobiles, randomly packed. With your shipment, I will send you that. You can get the shirt in any color you want as long as it's black, just like a Model T, because I'm an old guy. I do things the old-fashioned way. But it's more comfortable than a Model T. Whatever garment you should choose to adorn yourself with. So just put the size and your address in the message if you do send in a donation. And we sure appreciate it. And I will be back tomorrow night, same bat time, same bat channel. Maverick News, where we have the antivirus programs for your mind. Catch you on the flip side.
This has been a Maverick Multimedia production.